It's okay if he stays. He's fine. Hello guys. I'm going to take a little bit to see who comes on. Haven't really used Facebook Live before, to be honest. So this is all a little new. Or if I have used it, it's been a really long time. But we'll see if I get any people coming. I'm just going to sit here and see who comes. I did kind of give this short notice too, so I'm not really sure how many people have the opportunity to come. Looks like I got one person. Hello, hello. Let me get some music going. Just something in the background so it's not so quiet and silent. What should I play? What should I play? Maybe just some like ambiance music, like this guy. What I play in my classes. There we go. So I hope everyone is well tonight. This is my first attempt at this. First, but not my last. I'm going to definitely try and continue this and see if I can get more interest. Just conversations around healing because it's needed. Conversations around this and understanding that you're not alone in your journey, and knowing that it is a journey, not a destination, and having different modalities to help yourself through is just so important. And to know that, you know, it's not going to be an uphill climb all the way. You're going to feel like you're getting there, that, you know, things are getting better, you're getting understanding, you're really truly healing from the past, and something's going to hit you. Without a doubt, something's going to hit you and it's going to knock you back down and it's going to make you think, what the hell? Because it is not a linear journey. It is an up, and then you're going to go down, and then you're going to rise up even more, and then go down a little bit. It is a processing. I'm starting to get a few people on, so I'm going to just introduce who I am. My name is Cher Hall, but I go by the name Shakina Shakti on my books. I have 2 published books, as well as my social media. I am an advanced yoga instructor. I've been teaching yoga for about 8 years now. On top of that, I'm a Reiki master. I have my certification in hypnotherapy. I'm a meditation guide. And I'm just a girl on a journey figuring out what life looks like after trauma. And that's the biggest thing, is figuring out what life looks like after trauma. Yoga in particular has been a gift, a massive gift in my journey. It's truly helped me. And over the years of, first of all, just doing yoga as a practitioner, I found healing in that. And then becoming a yoga instructor, even more healing. It gave me the opportunity to find my voice, to find out that I could do hard things, that I could do things that I didn't think I could, and it really gave me confidence. And then on top of becoming a teacher and an instructor, I really dropped into the philosophy of yoga. So yoga is over thousands of years old. And yes, Western culture kind of looks at yoga as being flexibility and exercise. And yes, it is those things, but it's a lot more than that. And it's so ancient because it's first medicine. It is what we our ancestors used to heal themselves. Even the word asana, which is the word used for postures, is about is actually, if you take the word asana and put it into an English translation, it means to sit. So it's speaking of sitting with oneself, meditation, and healing. So I find that I don't look at yoga as exercise whatsoever. I look at yoga as medicine. And that's how I teach my classes. And I have found passion in the chakras. So I teach my classes around the chakra system. In fact, if you look over there, there is a symbol of the chakras. You can see all 7. And those 7 chakras have healed me in amazing, incredible ways. And it's what I teach in my classes, is chakra work. So chakra work is very profound self-awareness. And in my classes, I go week by week through each chakra. So one week will be one chakra, the next week will be the next. And by doing this processing of going individually through each chakra, it is my belief that you come back to who you authentically were before the world fucked up with you, before the world taught you that there was something wrong with you. Crystal, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here to join the conversation. I know that you have wisdom to share as well, so I'm glad you're here to talk about this. I was saying just earlier that this is something that is my first time doing, but I don't want it to be my last time. And I want to start kind of doing this, bringing up this conversation more and more, and getting the wisdom and insight from other people. Because as you and I both know, healing is a very vast and, I don't want to say complicated, but there's so many different ways to heal. And so I'm sharing with you my methods, which has been a lot of yoga and yoga philosophy. But for someone else, it could be something completely different. And I want to hear that. And I also want to hear your own journeys through it too. I was saying earlier too that healing is not a linear ride. There is a lot of ups and downs. And there's a lot of, thinking that you've achieved, that you've gotten so far and that you've healed so much. And then having something hit you and realizing that you've still got a lot more to go. I think at the beginning of my journey that was very, what's the right word? Devastating is too much, but it was very frustrating for me to think that I had done this much work. Here I was again, flat back where I thought that I had healed from. So there is, I don't know if you know about the universal laws, but one of the universal laws states that everything comes in patterns. And so you will get repeated lessons over and over again. Things that you thought you faced and that you thought you overcome will come back again just to see if you actually learned it. And when that happens, it can be super frustrating. Super frustrating. I think what I'm going to do, well, we see if other people come on and other people want to add to the conversation. I welcome that, please. Anything you want to add, anything you want to say, you are welcome to join in on what you have to share. I want that. But while we're waiting to see if other people want to come on and join, I'm just going to read a part of my book. So, Crystal, I know you know this, but for anyone else having interest in me, this is my second book. I just released it in March, and it is called Finding Hope, Life After Trauma, and it's a very personal dive into my journey. And so, seeing if other people add to our conversation, I'm going to read you the preface, the kind of explanation of what the book is. So, there is a belief among the indigenous that before our souls came to earth, we sit with the Creator and we decide our fate. I love this idea. But what really hit me was the part where our souls would choose our mothers with the intention of bringing them healing. My mom passed away 2 years ago now, but I hope this book helps her spirit heal. 5 years ago, I left my marriage of 27 years and realized that I had unknowingly followed my mother's path. I had married and given myself away. I had followed the generations of my family. Every day since has been devoted to changing history, and this book is part of that. What started as self-reflection turned into my first book, Good Morning, and this is my second, as I grow even stronger and learn to heal. This is my own love story, where, after a lifetime of pain, I get to find out what life looks like after trauma. Every day, I discover more, and each chapter of this book is dedicated to what I learn through different aspects of my healing. Finding Peace, which is the first chapter, documents my last trip home to visit my father in the hospital. It is my dedication to my mother, who passed away more than a year previously, and it's where I find forgiveness for my parents and peace in loss. Finding Me is dedicated to learning how to love myself when 5 years ago, at the age of 46, I realized I never knew how. It's filled with self-revelations and growth. Finding Love is dedicated to just that, finding healthy love after a lifetime of trauma and emotional abuse. It's my love story with my boyfriend Dale and the revelations that helped me to find love again. Finding Life is dedicated to my new life and ambitions. I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever imagined and capable of doing amazing things. This book is the story of how the newest version of me came to be. Over my 52 years on this planet, there have been many different incarnations, but this is the one I like the best. She knows who she is for the first time in her life, and she has big dreams and the confidence or craziness to believe she can. And she is passionate about helping those who are still where she's been. So that's kind of the outline of what my book is. But besides my book, let's just talk healing. So this week in my classes, I have been teaching sacral chakra, which is my favorite chakra to talk about. Because in your sacral chakra, Svadhisthana, you learn how to love yourself. And for me, that journey has been the most important journey of my healing. When you love yourself, your life changes. Every aspect of your life, from how you walk into a room, to what you think you can do, to the people that you attract around you. All of that gets different when you learn how to love you. And hello, I'm so glad you're here. So self-love to me is the most powerful thing that you can do in your healing journey. And self-love is probably one of the most difficult things to do as well, because we don't know how. And for a lot of us, myself included, I have hated myself my whole life. I've judged myself, I've pulled myself apart, I've looked in the mirror and hated everything that was looking back at me. I have been so hard on me. I have treated myself in ways that I would never fathom treating any other human. And learning how to not do that, and to stop listening to that voice in my head that told me that there was something wrong with me, has been a journey in itself. I was talking about this a lot this week, your ego voice. The word ego, I used to think meant egotistical, meant narcissistic, thinking yourself better than others, thinking yourself higher than others. But we all have egos, and our ego is a creation of our subconscious brain for self-protection. And we all have what's called an ego voice, which speaks to us. And depending on your experience in life, that voice can be really loud and it can be really damn mean. It can say some really unkind shit to you. And so I've been talking about that this week, about my ego voice and how I've had to understand it. Because your ego voice is not the enemy, even if it sounds like one. Because my ego voice used to tell me that I would fail at everything. My ego voice used to tell me I was stupid. My ego voice used to tell me not to try, because why try? You're just going to screw it up, and everyone's going to judge you, and everyone's going to laugh at you, and nobody's going to want you. My ego voice used to be really damn nasty, and I have learned why. I learned why that voice was so damn nasty, and its intention was my safety, and it was developed out of my childhood. Because as a child, I grew up going to a school that was very highly influenced around athletics. That was something that was put high, and I was not an athletic child. I was a clumsy kid. I was an awkward kid. I was a chubby kid. And when I couldn't do and perform like the other kids, I felt like there was something wrong with me. And nobody wanted me on their teams. Like back then, God, I hope they don't do it anymore, but back then they would pick 2 people to be team captains, and those 2 kids would get to choose their teams. And I would be the last one standing because nobody wanted me. And that sunk into this. This made me believe that there was something wrong with me and that I couldn't do things right. And so my ego took that and ran with it. And it created that voice in my head that said, don't. If you do, you're going to fuck it up. You're not going to get it right. You're going to fail. And everyone's going to judge you. And nobody's going to want you. And so that was formed from my childhood. And I took it into my adulthood. And it became such a limiting part of my life because I always had that voice in my head saying, don't. And told me I was stupid. And told me that there was something wrong with me. And it's really hard to not listen to that voice when you don't understand, when you don't know what it is. And so that's what I'm sharing with you. So that if you have a voice that's as nasty as mine was, you can understand where it came from. And maybe me even talking about this will ignite something in you that will make you understand why your voice speaks to you the way it does. Because its intention, your ego voice's intention, is your safety. It doesn't want you to get hurt again. And so it's taken what it's seen you go through, and it's now using your past to paint your future. So learning how to, first of all, understand why your voice says what it does, and second of all, learn that it's a liar, and that it's not telling you the truth, and that if you listen to your ego voice, you're actually going to stop yourself from experiencing life fully. Is, I think, 2 things that you really have to put in to understand. That your ego's intention is your safety, but you do not have to listen to it, because I listened to mine for a really long time, and it kept me from living. It kept me from taking chances. It kept me from trying new things. It kept me from believing in myself that I could do things. It kept me small. It kept me sad. It kept me thinking that there was something wrong with me, instead of giving me what I really needed, which was support and understanding. And the kind of push to try new things and to jump into the unknown. It really, really restricted me from life. And so that's been something I've been talking about in my classes a lot this week. Sacral chakra governs your relationship with yourself. It governs what you see in the mirror and what you think about what you see in the mirror. So your physical self. So for me, that's been a war as well. Oh, excuse me. 1 second. You might hear it. The speaker is my dog, and he wants to come in because he wants to join me. So give me 1 sec. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'm not gone far away. Speak. can't come in like that without coming in to see you. Come here. So I'm going to introduce you to my puppy. This is Beaker. This is my old man. So, yeah, he's my buddy. Okay, so I'm going to put him down. So your relationship with your physical self, with what you see in the mirror, your body, your face, what you look like, that has been something that I've had difficulty with as well for as far as I can remember. I think my first diet, if you want to call it diet, was at the age 7. And basically dieting for me was just not eating. I just would not eat food. My mom would try and bribe me with chocolate milk and Twinkies so that I'd eat something, but I would literally starve myself from morning till night and check the scale to see if I lost weight. And that attitude moved into my teenage years, and it wasn't about healthy, it was about how tiny could I be, how small could I be. So I went through that through my teenage years, and at that time that was not really a problem because I'm a small girl, and back then I probably ran around 95 pounds, and I kept myself that way. I kept myself as small as humanly possible, and then once I hit adulthood and got married and got pregnant, things changed. My metabolism changed. I started to be able to gain weight a little easier, which made me more self-critical. And then of course having babies changed my body, so I had more reasons to hate my body. And I went back into not just dieting, counting every calorie, but also exercise. And I became obsessive about exercise and diet, counting every calorie, working out to a point of exhaustion, working out at crazy levels for hours every day, pushing my body past its limits, all in the sake of skinny. Again, I don't even think it was healthy. It was just how skinny could I get. And that has been something that I've had to heal from as well, to learn self-acceptance, to learn self-love in my physical body, to accept my own flaws. Having children also gave me things like stretch marks, made me loathe myself even more, made myself feel like there's something wrong with me. So having to heal that as well. And I know for other people that's crazy. Some people who want babies, want to have children, who can't, would probably think that that's crazy, that I would hate on my body because of the stretch marks that gave me my children. But for me, it was another reason to consider myself flawed. So making peace with my body has been part of my journey as well. And learning to nourish my body and to value strength and being healthy over being skinny. Yoga also really helped me with that as well. To learn balance, to learn to listen to my body instead of force my body beyond its limits. Yeah, those things came from yoga as well. So, like I said, yoga has been so transformational in my life. But there's also another aspect to sacral chakra. Sacral chakra is a pretty big one, and that is your emotions, your feelings. And we all have them, but many of us, I'm going to be blunt here and say that the majority of us don't know how to deal with our feelings. Sorry, not my dog, but my daughter's dog is now crying at the door. So give me 1 second and I'll bring in my grandpuppy and I'll introduce you to him too. So, sorry, give me 1 second. Oh, Chico, you were in here. Come on. Chico. Okay. Well, you're coming in, so you have to get introduced to him. Woo! Okay. This is grandpuppy. This is Chico. I know. Okay. Okay, your emotions, your feels. Generally speaking, our parents didn't know how to teach us to deal with our emotions. Generally speaking, when you had a temper tantrum or, crying, really upset about something, our parents' way of reacting to that was to say, stop it, cut it out, behave yourself. And so instead of being taught how to deal with really big feelings as children, we were taught to stop it, stop doing it, to pretend that we're okay, put a smile on it. Our parents were well intended, but what ended up happening to a lot of us is that we didn't learn how to sit with our feelings. And our feelings are not the enemy. Our feelings are our own inner navigation. They are what helps us be guided through life. It helps us to know what matters to us, what's important to us. And the lessons are often, the lessons that we need are often in the uncomfortable feelings, painful ones. So learning to sit in pain and anger and see what it has to teach us. My dog wants out now. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to figure out something if I'm doing this on a regular. Baker! Because I can't be getting up and down for each of my dogs. Hopefully he can come out and stop it. Stop it. So learning how to sit with the uncomfortable feelings instead of run from them is part of the processing. And a lot of the ways that most of us have learned to deal with our feelings or to not deal with our feelings is through escapism. And sacral chakra governs addiction, escapism. And escapism can look different in different ways. Some of them are more socially acceptable than others. So you can be using techniques to escape big feelings and be getting away with it thinking that you're fine. And in the meantime, what you're doing is still running from your feels. So methods of escapism would be the big ones, drugs and alcohol. Those are the ones that we mostly look as being negative and obviously negative, but it can look like shopping. It can look like sitting on social media all night. It can look like food. It can look like exercising to exhaustion. It can look like keeping yourself so busy all the time so that you don't have a moment to sit down and actually feel what you're feeling. Those are points of escapism as well. And I'm willing to say that the majority of us do them. Do something in order to stay away from things that are uncomfortable, things we don't want to feel. But the lessons in the pain, and I've learned that over time as well. Not saying I'm perfect here, because again, healing is a journey, not a destination, but the lessons in the pain. And yeah, we don't like pain, we don't like uncomfortability, we don't like hurting, we don't like anger, we don't like those things, but in those things is where we really come into learning what they have to teach us. If you've been a product of a lot of trauma, I'm going to kick my dog out again. I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Okay. Out. I'm not coming back. Everybody out. Okay. They're all gone. Hopefully I can talk to you. So, now I'm trying to remember what I was saying. What was I saying? Lessons in the pain. I was talking about that. Triggers. That's what I was going to go to. Okay, triggers. So, a trigger is a product of trauma. A trigger is emotions coming up for you because of something currently happening. So something happens and it reminds your subconscious brain of something you've been through before, something that hurt. And so because your subconscious brain gets triggered, oh my gosh, this feels like what happened before, the emotions that were intertwined with that event come up for you. So if something really painful happened to you and something in the present happens to you that reminds you of it, those emotions will come up for you, even if those, like what's happening, the event that's happening in front of you, sorry, that would be my boyfriend's brother coming to visit and the dog is barking. So, it doesn't mean that the event that's currently happening deserves the emotions that you're being triggered with. And that's something important to remember during a trigger. And triggers are actually a gift, believe it or not. They feel shitty. When you're triggered, it doesn't feel good. But a trigger is a reminder that there's something you're still carrying from the past. So when you can identify that you've been triggered, it gives you an opportunity to look within, to go, okay, where's this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? Am I warranted in feeling this way with the current event that's happening in the present? Is this an emotion that fits what's happening now? Or is this an emotion coming up for me because of what I've been through? And then looking at what I've been through and understanding why I'm still carrying it. A trigger is an absolute incredible opportunity for you to heal. And yeah, we don't like triggers. In fact, you can see certain posts, they'll say trigger warning, just in case. And I've even had it told to me teaching some classes that I'm triggering people by talking about certain subjects. But in my perspective, if I've triggered you, I've awakened a part of you that you still need to heal, that you still need to look at. And while you might not like being triggered, it's your opportunity to heal. And I guess it kind of goes along with what you're willing to face. And you can't make somebody else face what they're not ready to. And that's a huge thing to understand and respect. That just because you're on a healing journey and you've come so far and you want that for the people around you, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Meaning that you can't push anybody else along their healing journey. As much as you would love that for the other person, if they're not ready, they're not going to face it. And they're going to probably be provoked by you triggering them, by you bringing up whatever it is that you feel they need to face. And so understanding that, it doesn't mean that you don't want to help those around you, that you don't want to make a difference to those around you. But if they don't want to see it, you can't make them. That goes a little bit more from sacral chakra into the third chakra, which I don't know if you can see. So you can see right there is root chakra. There's sacral chakra. Right above it, third chakra, is solar plexus chakra. And so coming from sacral chakra, where you really get clear with yourself, which means getting super clear with all aspects of yourself. I've spoken a little bit to the physical self, what you look like on the outside and your relationship with that. I've spoken to your emotions, and self-acceptance, loving who you are uniquely, but it's also into owning your shit. And this is a huge part, and kind of goes more into solar plexus as well. It's kind of between that sacral and solar plexus area, where it's accountability. This is a huge aspect of self-love, and not a comfortable aspect. Because a lot of us, and again, I'm going to say, a lot of us, in fact, I would say probably the majority of us still live in a victim story. Live in a woe is me story. Live in a I can't believe that was done to me story. And as long as you're blaming somebody else for your life experience, you're blaming somebody else for your unhappiness, you're giving your power to them. You are making them responsible for your happiness, and they don't have that job. You do. It is only up to you to change the direction that you are in your life in order to find your own happiness. And if you're not happy, it's up to you to change, like again, to make different choices. But a part of that coming out of victim means looking very, very honestly in the mirror. And I don't mean the physical mirror, I mean the internal mirror. What choices have you made? What behaviors do you take on that are not necessarily the best behaviors? Do you have toxic traits? This is a big one. Do you have toxic traits? If you've grown up in toxic environments, if you've grown up under emotional abuse, which I have, then chances are you do. Because we can only do what we've been taught. And so if you grew up in a family who used emotional abuse, then you learned those tactics. And very likely that's what you're choosing as an adult. So getting very clear about what, first of all, emotional abuse looks like, which before my healing journey, I didn't know, so that you can actually see it in yourself. And it's not just being able to see it in yourself, but also to see it around you. Because quite frankly, if you are in a scenario of emotional abuse, very likely you won't even know. So learning what emotional abuse actually is very powerful as well. Not just for your own accountability, but for what you see around you. Because emotional abuse is highly prevalent. Most all of us use it to some degree. Manipulation, negging, silent treatment, control, gaslighting, all of these things are common tools that we use in our relationships. So understanding what emotional abuse is for your own identity and for your relationships is super powerful for you choosing differently. Yeah. I feel like I've been talking away. Nobody's joined in on the conversation. You were always welcome to. I've also gotten messages from people asking if I'm on here, so I'm not sure if everyone's getting the notifications that I'm live. I'm not quite sure what to do about that. Let me see if I can tag somebody. Anybody got any feedback about all the stuff I've been blabbing to you guys? Let's see. Invite friends to watch. Yes, there we go. Okay, let me see. Because I just had a friend ask me if she missed it, but I'm here. There we go. I just invited her, so maybe she'll join. But yeah, feedback, guys. Is it Crystal and Anne still with me? Are you guys still here? I can see that there's 2 people with me, but I can't see who you are unless I click. Again, I'm not. Yeah. Anne, you're still here, I think. I think. Like I said, I don't think I've ever done a Facebook Live. Maybe I have. Maureen, hello. I saw your message. I'm not sure why it didn't work out that you saw I was on live. I've been on live since quarter after. And I personally can't stand the word toxic. Having said that, I think we all have toxic traits. Yeah, I agree. I think we all do. I think that even with my own self-awareness, my own self-understanding, I have to watch myself to be careful that I don't fall into old patterns, that I don't use things from my past that I used to get away with and unconsciously get away with, not realizing. Like, I think I used guilt a lot. I used a lot of like, woe is me, feel sorry for me, because that's the environment I grew up with. There was a lot of guilt in my families. Oh, it's okay. Maureen, I just saw your message and was just wondering if, like, again, this is my first Facebook Live, so I was wondering if maybe people weren't getting notified that I was on. But yeah. Yeah, I think accountability is huge. I think there's a balancing act, especially when you're from trauma and when you've been a people pleaser, which I've been, of not trying to make, like, I think being a people pleaser leads you to take on blame for everything. And sometimes I'm not to blame. Sometimes I'm valid. And other times it's a clear look in the mirror and be like, girl, you know, maybe you're triggered. Maybe this response doesn't actually meet the situation. Maybe you need to look in the mirror. It's that balance of looking at yourself and acknowledging your right to be here, which you have, as well as looking in the mirror and getting clear with yourself. And I have been silent plenty of times. For me, it was easier to just be quiet than address things. So hold on, I need to see the rest. Address things for nothing, or to be told I was overreacting, too emotional, it didn't happen that way, etc. Yeah, I hear you there. I would do the same thing. Silent treatment was something that I used to. And I think it was also based on the fact that I had a fear of confrontation. And so it was hard to get the words out when I was upset. I was afraid of the reaction, walked on eggshells. It was really hard for me to speak out. So it was easier just to shut down, to clam up, and to not speak at all. And yeah, that reaction that you're speaking of, to be told that I was overreacting or too emotional, that is gaslighting. So you were being gaslit. 100% gaslighting is when someone takes your experience and diminishes it and tells you it didn't happen that way. And gaslighting is also really prevalent and been something that's been done to me as well. Crystal, definitely resonating with what you're talking about. A lot of what you're explaining has come up in my trauma therapy recently, and I've been trying to do the dealing with the emotions and the feeling them fully when they are felt and brought on by triggers, and connecting that to the physical symptoms and finding ways to process these pieces of this journey, connect it to where I'm at mentally, physically, and soulfully. Powerful. Yeah. Lessons in the pain, but it's not comfortable. It's really not comfortable. And well, I'm glad you weren't afraid, because being afraid sucks. Yeah, being afraid sucks. And unfortunately, a lot of us know fear. So that is something I'm grateful that you didn't have. Yeah, but it's an interesting relationship that we overall have with the word trigger. Because a lot of us are like, oh, we shouldn't trigger people. We've got to be so careful not to trigger people. But I say bring on the triggers, because again, the lessons in them, the lessons in the pain. As long as you are avoiding the pain, you are avoiding healing. Crystal, sorry, I'm just going to open up your message so I can see it more. It's hard to fully feel emotions when you've been told not to. Oh, girl, I feel you there. Yeah, learning how to feel, period, is part of the process. Learning how to have emotions, period, when your whole life you've been told to stop it, is a new journey in itself. And then sitting with the ones that don't feel good. So I'm going to continue what you wrote. It's a funny thing to want to cry, but not feel like you can. And your body feels like it can't. The journey forward continues though. Yeah, and it's one step at a time. I remember at the very beginning of my journey just being so desperate for help, because I didn't know how. I had no idea how I was going to get better. I was so ashamed of where I was, and so so wanting different, but not knowing how to get there. And I remember even like making a post, like just out there, like, help, help, I don't know how to get through this. And just that movement that I need help changed things. And the wisdom came after that. So the acknowledgement, you just putting to voice that you are still struggling with this, is going to help you. Just know that. Just keep going. It's like you don't have to know how. You don't have to know the end game. You don't have to know how to get there. But the awareness of that is already starting your healing. And you'll get there. You will get there. like I said, journey, not a destination, that's for damn sure. I think my lowest point too was just realizing, thanks Crystal, that that I needed that help, that I couldn't do it by myself, I think was a powerful thing. And I'm going to read what you wrote. My heart hurts for the women who feel or have felt fear. Anger and keeping my wall up was my self-preservation until it didn't work anymore. Girl, my heart hurts for you too, because anger and keeping your wall up, also really painful. And that anger, they say that anger is just grief that you held on to for too long. So you held on to that sadness in you until it turned into anger. And walls up of self-preservation, I think anyone who's been through trauma has that. Some of us thicker walls than others, because you don't have a choice. You're like, we're brilliantly made. We're brilliantly made for our own self-preservation, and the things we learn as children to survive are brilliant. But those walls up keep us from connection and keep us from love and being loved, and that's why we're here. So those walls prevent life. And those walls are damn difficult to get down. To tear down those walls and let people close when you've been hurt, really, really hard. Really hard. So I send kudos to you because, again, I've told you this in person, I have seen you so powerfully come from where you were to where you are. And you've grown so, so much. I think we all have. Like, we've all been on this crazy journey. And yeah, I think too, Anne, as you speak to that sadness, I think as we, live, as life happens to us, it is impossible to get through it without carrying some sadness. It's impossible. Things happen that we didn't want. Things go in directions that we didn't want them to go. We lose people that aren't here anymore, and we lose people that are here physically and yet not with us anymore. And those are things deserving of grief. And so I think we accumulate grief through our lives, and that's okay. In fact, I think that's kind of, in a weird way, beautiful, because anything that you have grief over must have come from a place of love at some point. Anything that you grieve because you loved it. And so I think there's beauty in that there was love there, even if it's lost. And I don't think any of us get through life without grief. But it's learning that balance too, of not stepping into the grief and letting the grief overcome you. Cynthia, hello. Not letting the grief overcome, like all of you. Because while there's grief, there's always life. And there's always something next. There's always a new beginning. And there's always love. And if you can let the grief make that life so important, and that living and that love that much more important, then the grief is kind of what pushes you forward to keep that joy still, to focus on the good things. Because as much as we're going to have sadness in our life, we're always going to have some things to be grateful for. And I'm going to read what you said. Happier than I've been in so many years. Yep. Sad that life, even though it's good, isn't what I thought it would be at this age. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that fully, and yeah. But I also have to really say that I have been so blessed in my journey since I ended my marriage and started my healing. I really have to step into gratitude to how life has evolved after that. Because I think when you end any marriage, toxic or not, there is grief in it, because no one ever, says I do without the intention of that being your life together. So, and if you have children together, all these things kind of change when that relationship changes. And I think it's important for us to feel peace, and I do. I think that's the goal. Right there, Anne, I think that's the goal. You're not going to make life easy by healing. You're not going to change the chaos that's all the way around you. You're not going to prevent bad things from happening to you by healing. All of that is out of your control. You can't control the outside world. The only thing you can control is the inside world, and how you face those things, how you react to those things. And I think the goal is to find peace in chaos, to be okay, no matter what happens, to know that you're okay. I think for me, faith has been a huge portion of that. I actually wonder what someone who has no faith is able to, if they're able to find peace without that feeling that there's something more, that all this chaos that we're going through has a reason behind it, that it didn't happen for nothing, that everything that I've been through brought me to where I was meant to be, and that at the end of it all, I'm going to still be reconnected with my loved ones that I'm no longer with anymore. I think faith has helped me through all of that. Certainly helped me through my mom's passing, and feeling her around me has certainly helped me to have a sense of peace, even though the way she went out is still incredibly painful to me, to know that she endured so much pain, not just in her ending, but her whole life. It was something that I was really angry about for a long time, and that I had to face and reconcile, and feeling her spirit, her soul around me, and feeling this feeling like she's okay now has helped me with healing that and reconciling that she had to go through all of that. And I do think her going through all of that really does empower me to want different for my life, and for other people's lives, and for my daughter's lives as well. Because we used to value sticking it out no matter what, staying together no matter what, putting yourself as a martyr, making other people more valued than you, giving yourself away. And none of those things truly help you or your family. Watching my mom give herself away taught me to do the same. And I don't want that to continue. I don't want that to continue in my family's generations anymore. And I don't want that for anybody else either. It's why this exists. It's why I wrote this book, is to maybe my story will resonate with somebody else's story, and give them an insight that maybe they need it. I feel like I'm blabbing a lot, guys, but thank you for joining in the conversation. It's really cool. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. So I do want to continue these. I think that it's a cool conversation to have, especially among like-minded people like yourselves who have experienced, dare I say, I think most of us, again, majority of us, no trauma. That's the other thing, is the word trauma. It's funny, there's all these words that I had a different definition of before my healing journey. Trauma, I used to believe, was a big, horrific event, like an accident, like a violent occurrence, like war, something that was just this horrible, horrific thing that happened to someone and someone couldn't get over. But now I understand that trauma is not so much what happened to you, but how it lives in you. So for example, me being teased and bullied as a child is my trauma that I carried into my adulthood. And for someone else who had more self-confidence and more nurturing around them, maybe they wouldn't have taken that into their adulthood, but I did. And that's my trauma. I mean, that's one aspect of my trauma. I don't know that, but you know what I mean. That's trauma. It can be a small event from the outside looking in, but it's how it lives in you, and how it shows up in your life as an adult that really frames it as trauma. The other thing that I used to think differently upon was emotional abuse. I used to think that emotional abuse was clear, that it was someone being really nasty to you, calling you names, being really mean to you. But emotional abuse, in actuality, is very subtle. You can be completely in an emotionally abusive relationship with your parents or your partner and not even know it, not even know that this is what's happening to you. But emotional abuse will unravel your self-confidence, your belief in who you are, to the point where you don't even know that this is something wrong. So emotional abuse is also something that has changed its definition for me. And the word ego, I used to think, defined someone's high belief in themselves, someone thinking that they were better than others. But ego, in actuality, is the part of your subconscious brain that was evolved out of self-protection, self-preservation. So your ego voice is the one that took your experiences and created a voice for that in order to keep yourself safe. Like, I'm not sure if you will hear for me talking about my childhood and how I was so clumsy and awkward and felt like nobody wanted me on their team, that I created an ego voice that dictated to me into my adulthood that I couldn't do anything right and not to try. The voice was created in order to keep myself safe, self-preservation, don't get hurt again, don't get bullied again, don't feel unwanted again. But what it really did was create a nasty dialogue in my head that told me that there was something wrong with me. And I think emotional abuse breaks and damages us from the inside out. Yeah. I mean, emotional abuse and physical abuse are usually together, if they're going to happen together. You can have emotional abuse, though, and not have physical abuse, and it dismantle who you are. So I've never experienced physical abuse, thank God, but I have experienced a lot of emotional abuse. And I, at some point in my life, really didn't have any self-identity. Really didn't even know what I wanted. Like, I've had to learn who I am again after it. So emotional abuse is a way of, really destroys you. It really does destroy the essence of you. And it's a hell of a journey to come out of. Yeah, like I don't want to say, oh no, you booted yourself out, right? I don't want to say that it's, I mean, again, I've not experienced physical abuse, so I'm not going to say that I have any idea what that experience is like. But the emotional abuse really just destroys your soul. It takes the essence of who you are and robs it from you. I could talk to you a little bit of my understanding of the different types of emotional abuse. Like negging would be when you give somebody an insult that's not a clear insult. So for example, I would be put on a cute little outfit and I would come out and I'd be ready to go out for the evening, and my person would say, "You're gonna wear that out? Really?" That would be an example of negging. Gaslighting, we spoke to already, which is basically dismantling somebody's truth, So say I go to you and I'm saying, I felt really hurt when you said that. And that person responding back by saying, I didn't say that. What do you think? And I would never say that. Dismantling what you think to be real. And basically in the highest points of gaslighting, you can come to this point where you really self-doubt. You self-doubt your own reality. You wonder, do I really see the world right? Am I valid? A big part of that too, it would be not validating your feelings, like saying, oh, I can't even be myself around you, you are far too sensitive. Really disregarding how the other person feels. So gaslighting is one of the most damaging forms of emotional abuse because it really does take you away from you. We spoke to silent treatment, which I think is an easy emotional abuse. In fact, I can say that I was guilty of silent treatment for many reasons. As I mentioned before, fear of confrontation. It was easier just to clam up and shut up, because then I didn't have to get the words out, because the words were hard to get out. And again, like Anne mentioned, the avoidance of the reaction of whatever you have to say. But silent treatment also is the opposite of communication. So when you cut down yourself, when you shut yourself off from the people around you, then you really damage your relationships. When you shut down and not communicate to the people close to you, you create that wall and there is no connection anymore. And to the person that you're shutting down from, the person that you're no longer communicating with, it can set off a huge spiral of anxiety in them. The receiver of the silent treatment, which by the way my mom used to do, she used to do silent treatment. The receiver of the silent treatment will go through, especially if they're anxious, the entire barrage of what did I do, what did I say, how is this my fault, what did I... And without that communication, without that understanding of what was done that caused you to clam up, their imagination goes wild with this. So you're really hurting the people around you by shutting down and not telling them your feelings. You give up communicating when you feel like you're talking to a brick wall. Yeah. I think it's hard when you have emotionally unavailable partners. Yeah, when you have emotionally unavailable partners, because it does take two. I mean, I did have a close friend of mine talk about her processing through her marriage, where it came down to where she was about to leave, and you know, there was all these behaviors of the other person, and she was ready to leave, she was done. But when she started to work on herself, he started to rise with her. And I think that there is kind of that thing that happens, that when you start to heal, the person that you're with is either going to come up and start to heal with you, or you're going to drop away from them and they're no longer going to be in your life. And if someone's not willing to change and like rise with you, then I think also understanding that you don't have to stay in places that hurt you, I think is really important to know. If you are being hurt in a relationship and you've done your best to try and find communication, some sort of balance, even if you can understand the person, because I think that that's another thing that a lot of us in toxic relationships do. We give excuses for our loved ones. We see their wounding. We see their own trauma that they carry. We understand why they do the things that they do, even the shitty things that hurt us. And in that, we stay. We allow things to happen that hurt us because we know that the person that's hurting us is hurt too. But I think it comes down to self-love again, to understanding that you deserve to be treated well. You deserve to be treated well. And if you're not being treated well, and you've done whatever you can to change that scenario, and they're just not willing, then maybe it's okay for you to say goodbye. Yeah. Crystal, I find I go silent when I feel like I'm chasing or begging the person to communicate and work through issues. Yeah. I think it's really hard because, again, we don't get to control outside things. We don't get to control other people and how they react or respond to us. We don't get to control the outside world. We only get to control the inner. And so boundary setting is something that I've had to learn. I don't think I even knew what the word was until I left. And those boundaries are very challenging to truly stay with. It's easy to state how you feel to someone. It is harder to enforce the consequence of how you feel if that boundary is still crossed. To say, when you do this, this hurts me, and if you do it again, I'm going to do this. And then they go ahead and do it again. To actually follow through with the consequence is difficult. It's really hard. Yeah, it takes two willing people, and we can only control ourselves. Yeah, and 100%. And there's also this thing where it is okay to decide that you want something else. It is okay to realize that this person is not going to rise with you, is not going to face those issues that you want to face with you. It's okay to walk away from that. But you also have another choice. And while I may not advocate for it, it's also a choice that you have. The other choice is to stay, but find your own peace with it. If you can't make somebody change and you don't want to go, then you must find a way to have peace with how it is, because you can't change another person. So if you want to stay, then you must make peace with what is. And that also comes down to your happiness is yours, your job, not theirs. If they're making you unhappy, it's because you're letting them make you unhappy. And if you want different, then you have to do different. So A, walk away, or B, find peace in chaos. There's a quote from Wayne Dyer, and he says, oh my gosh, it's gone out of my brain for a second. Change how you look at things, and the things you look at will change. So for example, if you're wanting help around the house, and you want them to wash dishes with you, and you've asked them, and they're still not doing it, you can choose to be miserable about it and angry about it and feel like they're not hearing you and you've asked for help and they're not giving you help, blah, blah, blah. Or you can go, I'm just going to wash dishes by myself and I'm going to be happy about that. You get to decide that. Are you going to make yourself miserable and focus on what they're not doing? Or are you going to take control of what is and make peace with what is? Yeah. And you left, I left, Crystal, you left, and better life was waiting. Good life was waiting. So there's that too, is that leaving can be really scary, especially when you don't know how you're going to be okay. A lot of us end up in relationships where we feel financially tied to the person that we're with. And when it's a toxic situation and you're under emotional abuse and you've kind of lost your self-worth and your self-confidence, the idea of walking away and leaving and being able to face life alone, terrifying. But I think we're all, the three of us, are evidence of facing your fear and finding out that there was a whole new beautiful life on the other side of it. Yeah. Well, my loves, I feel like I've done a lot of blabbing. I hope you've had value or enjoyed our little conversation. Like I said, I want to do more of this. I think that this is a cool conversation to have, and I hope that we grow and that we get more people to join us. Yeah, Crystal's super scary, but so much more worth it. Seriously, before I say goodbye to all this, my life, I could have never imagined all the stuff that would be waiting for me after I left. All the stuff that I've gotten to do, including my books, including teaching, including my social medias, including doing this, having the confidence to sit on a video, a live video that who knows who can see me on. The old me would have been in so much fear over a lot of the things that I do now and just love doing. So I've gotten through a lot of fear and come to the other side of it. It's pretty damn cool. Life is good, and absolutely. But on that note, I'm going to say goodnight. I'll keep you guys updated. I hope that you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought. And we'll do this again. Mwah. Good night, guys. All my love. Bye-bye.